Excellent. So I'll run through it. Basically, obviously, this is a challenge, but I thought, well, I can't just come on and say, oh, this is the chat, because I mean, it would be such a short night that we'd soon be getting back to Netflix, and I'm sure, you know, we can do more constructive things than that. So I'll carry on. So obviously, the first thing is, everybody who's here tonight, I just wanted to say that thank you for, you know, coming on tonight. You know, your time is valuable, and I appreciate you giving up your time to hopefully gain something along the line. It's a bit like, many years ago, I went to seminars, and I always thought, is this going to be a waste of my time because I know everything? And somebody said to me, well, if you walk out with one thing, it was worth going. And then years later, I realized that actually I knew nothing. So it was all beneficial. So hopefully, going back to, I hope tonight will give you all something. And there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you've got any questions, please do ask. I think it's challenging with this group because there are varying levels of photographers in it. You know, some of them are beginners, and some are more advanced. Some of them do it full time, and some of you do it as a hobby. So I don't. If I aim it in the middle, then hopefully there'll be something that's good for everybody. So what do I shoot? Now, this was a tough one because I thought, well, I could sit here and go through about half a dozen pictures and sort of say, well, this is what I do. And I thought, well, that's a bit boring, and it'll drag on too long, and we want to get around to the challenge. So forgive me for the indulgence, but what I've done, I've put together a 4-minute slideshow, which covers everything that I do as far as corporate PR, press. So I'm going to run it, and then we'll get on with the challenge. But I thought I'd show you what I do first. Some photographers, as they say, shoot for show and win awards. Some of us shoot for dough and keep a roof over our heads. I try and do a little bit of both, but the majority is shooting to keep a roof over my head, which I'm sure that's the case with a lot of us. So here we go. So that's roughly what I do. Did it buffer at all, Sally? Oh, she's on mute. Mike, are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did that buffer, or was it all right?
It did for me, but my internet connection can be a little bit weak in here, so I'm not sure how it was for everybody else.
The sound struggled a little bit at times, Mike, but the imagery came through fine.
Okay, all right, I'll carry on then. Right, getting around to the challenge, the bit that's tonight all about. Okay, it's still life multi-exposure image. Now, before I go any further, what I've done two separate shoots. One is this still life one, which I'm going to go through in a moment. The second one is a 3-bracket exposure. So if anybody's sat there thinking, well, I haven't got the facilities to do off-camera flash, the alternative might be a better option if need be. Just so that you're aware before we go any further. Right, carrying on. Flash gun that I use is at 8200, modified with a snoot and a grid. If you haven't got a snoot and a grid, if you have a look on YouTube, you can DIY them. Or failing that, go on Amazon. We've all got familiar with Amazon. Right. And then I'm going to process it in Photoshop CC. Anything with layers will do it. That's what I'm going to do it in there. So how did I shoot mine? This is a short clip. I've actually shot it on a mobile phone, so the quality is not brilliant, but it shows you the basis of what I did. Okay.
I'm going for a multi-exposure shot of this flower arrangement. Did it in the hallway, which I've got light coming in from the right hand side. So to begin with, I stopped the camera right down, so it was just giving me black. So obviously everything that I'm going to light is going to be recorded. And then I worked my way around the arrangement with the 8200 with a grid on. The reason I use the grid is to condense the light so it doesn't spread out. And I just used it around the back of the arrangement just to give me some rim lighting on the top and the sides. Not that I'm going to use them all, but it was just in case. Then I've swapped over to the mag snoot, which narrows the beam, and also with the 8200 being got its own modelling light, it did help me to pick out various aspects on the arrangement, which proved quite helpful. Obviously, if you're doing this in a darkened studio or darkened room, it would probably be a little bit easier. And also, if you wanted to condense the area that the light was falling on, you could add gaffer tape to the front and make the hole smaller on the snoot, whatever kind of snoot you're using, whether it's a rolled up piece of paper or a snoot, as I've got mounted on my 8200. So working my way around from left to right, trying to remember which heads I've lit and which ones I've still got to light. Trying to remember which heads I've lit and still picking a few extra ones just in case I need them. I think in the end I've got about 36 shots, and I narrowed it down to about 12 or something like that. So then the shots that are captured, showing the left, the top, the shots that are captured, the back, from behind, on the right, and then working my way around various parts of the arrangement. And then once I've got all the shots, put them together, and that's the final image. Put them together, and that's the final image.
So post-production was like this. Okay, so we've downloaded the files onto the desktop, gone through them, sorted which ones we want, and we're going to go to Photoshop now to do the edit. So if you go to File, Scripts, load files into Stack, which will bring you this box to hit Browse, go to where you've saved the files on your desktop or wherever you've saved them, select the files that you want to call in to Stack as layers, press OK. That will call them into here. Don't select either of these boxes, just press OK. and that will load the layers up. If you can't see the layers box, if you go to, just load those in, Windows, layers, and then it will appear on the right hand side. I've actually selected one which I want to use as the base because it's slightly darker than the others, and obviously I want to try and hide the background a bit where the light has picked up. I move that base layer to the bottom there and go to the top, click on that eye there and switch all those off. Go to that layer and duplicate it, Control J, because I want to make mine slightly darker. Yours might be dark enough, but for me I need to make that darker to start with. Go to here, levels, pull that brightness down so that it loses the background, as you can see there, to start with. Then go to the first layer above. From this one I'm after the tulip and the rose, so I'll click on that layer, add a mask, Control I, make it black. If you recall, what I needed from this one is the tulip and the rose. That's all I want from there. Move up to the next layer. It's the flower on the right. That's about that I'm going to get from that one. Click on the layer, add a mask, Control I, and it's this flower here. I don't know what that flower's called, but that's the one I want. On this one, it's the flower that's below it. Click on the layer, add a mask, Control I, pull that one back. Onto the next layer above, and it's the rose and the tulip and this leaf I'm going to go for on there, probably even this bit of greenery here. So click on the layer, add a mask, Control I, it's the tulip and the rose. If you don't want it to reveal quite so much, what you can do, let's go Control Z on that a few times. And what you can do is reduce the opacity, just go over it once, and that will just pull it back slightly less harsh. Okay, next layer up, flower on the left. Click on the layer, add a mask, Control I to, that's it, and then we'll just pull that one past. That's too little now, you see, so just up that a little bit more. That's better. Okay, let's level up. That's quite a broad light on that one, so I might save that one. That's my kind of get out of jail exposure for that one. So let's go up to the next one. Leaf on the right side of the vase will do nicely from that one. Add a mask, Control I. Remember, white reveals, black conceals, so just make sure it's on white here. If you're doing it and nothing's happening, it's because you need to change it and flick it round to white. Okay, we want side this flower here, side of the vase. We'll do nicely up to the next level. This one I'm going to just go for this bit of greenery that's coming through here. So click on the layer, add a mask, Control I, and we'll pull that back a little bit there. Up to the next one, and we've got the tulip a little bit there. Let's see if we need that. Yes, we do. So click on the layer, add a mask, Control I, bring that tulip back, a few bits there, Bit here, bit on that greenery there, bit there. Or we can even get a bit of vase there as well. Give that some shape, that's good. And top layer, what does that give me? It gives me the tulip that's here and this bit that's here, so we'll go for that one. Add the mask, Control I, and it's the tulip there and the bit that's in the middle there. Now the layer that I left to one side, this one here, I'm going to move that one to the top now, because that is going to give me everywhere that I couldn't pick light from one of the other ones, or missed picking light from one of the other ones. So create a mask, Control I, make the brush slightly smaller, and then add final bits of light in on these ones, and anywhere that's gone a bit too dark. Okay, so one other area that I could use this layer for is at the bottom. We've got the white coaster showing, which I left on to protect the surface of the wood that I had the vase sat on. Now the light didn't actually shine down here on this layer, so if I turn the opacity down a little bit to about 17, I can just add, let's go a little bit much, if I just, rather than adjust it, I'm just going to go over it 3 times to bring that light down, do a bit more, and that will do nicely.
So that's the first one. Any questions, Mike?
There were no questions from in specific on the chat. I mean, just to recap a little bit. So we're using multiple exposures, using the flash just to highlight specific areas of the subject. So in this case was the vase with the flowers. The snoot and the grid enables you to control the light very finely to just pick out individual flowers and details, and then pulling all those into layers, you're then able to use each shot to kind of pull out the individual detail of that image. And also by doing it as off-camera flash there, you were able then to create a very black background that enables the flowers and the vase to really kind of pop out from a very blank background. So we didn't see that it was shot in a window looking out over your driveway or wherever that may have been. So, yeah.
I mean, it's it gives quite a, I guess, surreal kind of light to it, because if you kind of try to look at an image like that and think, well, how was it lit? It wouldn't make sense. But visually, there's so much light and dark that it just works, because it's interesting. Well, I feel it's interesting because I like to think, you know, with a lot of my day-to-day shoots, I haven't got the luxury of being able to light it probably exactly how I'd like to, because it's against the clock, which is, I guess, why I enjoy shoots that both Jan and Sally arrange, because you can be more creative and you can light it exactly how you want to light it. You know, obviously, if you use studio lights or portable lights, and a lot of people like shooting natural light, but I just feel that because I like flash, that you can really manipulate everything to such a degree, you know, using modifiers, flags, to really give shape. In fact, the image we're going to go on to, I'm going to do now, is the same principle as making it more than what it is really, purely by just using light and dark. In fact, out of the two, this is probably my favorite one, although it's not actually done in camera, it's done in Photoshop. But it's the same sort of thing. That's
just before you move on, we've had one question.
Yeah.
Which was the audio was a little quiet when you were actually doing the shooting.
Yeah.
The question was, did you cover the sort of aperture you were using and how powerful you set the flash to at all, or are you able to give some?
Yeah. When I shot mine, I wanted to try and make the background as dark as I could. I think I was on about f13 because obviously I needed to kill that light that was blasting in from the right hand side of me. I mean, what I should have done was shot it at night, then I wouldn't have had the problem. So I'd stopped it. I'd stopped it right down to f13, and on the AD200, I think I winged it to start with. I put it on full power. I took the I had the flash, so like this far from the flower head. Took the shot, looked at the camera, thought it's blown it. So I took it down to a half power. Tried it again, that sort of distance from the flowers, and it was fine. So what I worked the basis on was shoot the whole thing on half power and try and keep the same distance as I worked all the way around to do the shot that way. And that's how I did it. But I wanted to keep the flash at the same power. I definitely didn't want to go to TTL or something like that where it was going to try and make up its mind for me. I wanted to keep it consistent. And on the camera, obviously, that was manual as well.
Yeah. So, Lisa, I would say it was probably a 90th of a second, something like that, 100th of a second is a typical flash setting. And for those of you that are new to off-camera flash, my personal opinion is don't ever buy a TTL flash. You're wasting hundreds and hundreds of pounds on an expensive flash when ultimately you want to be in control. So exactly what Mike said, he set the power, he reduced the power, he could look in the camera, see what he needed it to be, and he controlled the light. The last thing you want is a TTL flash that's trying to do everything for you because you can't be creative. And that one thing with off-camera flash is be creative, control that light. That's what photography is about. Same as when you're in a studio, you're controlling light.
And I must admit, I mean, I bought Nikon's flash speed lights when I first started, but in more recent times, I'm going to bought the. Where's Mike's on? Joe. That is Mike. I went and bought the AD200s. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
I went and bought the AD200s, and for off-camera flash. For the money, I think they're brilliant because they do actually do TTL, but they do manual and they do high-speed sync. I think they're about £260 for the old version. They've got a newer version which is more expensive, but the sort of initial version about 260, 3.5 times more powerful than a speed light that you pay 500 quid for. So why would you?
Yep.
But saying that, you can go and buy a Ungo or whatever they're called for about £80 or something. I always feel that the difference between Pro Gear and Amazon Gear, cheap Amazon Gear, is the Pro Gear is going to last longer, which is good because we're so rough with it. But there's nothing wrong with the less expensive ones because you're obviously not using it quite as often as a Pro would. It's a bit like softboxes or brollies. You know, you can get really inexpensive ones. They won't last as long, but then if you're not using them as much, not a problem.
Yeah.
Apart from if you buy a softbox, get one with an inner baffle so you don't get specular highlights everywhere.
Can I just butt in once before we go on? Not everybody's going to have a snoot, and I couldn't really hear what you were saying.
What I was saying, yeah. There's a number of ways around it. You can, like with a snoot, you could get a piece of paper and curl it up and gaffer tape it and put it on the front of your flash gun. Or have a look on YouTube, DIY snoots. There's loads of them on there, DIY grids, snoots, and you can get around it that way. Or go on Amazon and buy one. Either a Rogue Rogue Flash Benders do them, Honnold Grid, or Magmod, or any others. But yeah, there's plenty of them out there. But if you're just using it just to try it out, see what it's like, DIY it, MacGyver it, you'll get away with it. Bit like with your speed light, if you haven't got a grid, if you get some gaffer tape and just put the gaffer tape around the edge of the speed light, it'll pull the beam in just that bit more, and then you can just push the gaffer tape in a bit and it will do the same thing, but don't close it too much because it'll overheat. But it works.
Yeah, I mean, some people won't even know what a snoot is. There'll be some people on there that won't even know what it is. So it's that object that you put on. You haven't got it there to hand, have you, Mike?
Do you know what? I was going to get it out and I thought, no, it'll be all right. I won't need it.
Oh dear. Right, okay. But they can look back when they have a look at the video. They can see.
Yeah, basically, the one that I've got pulls out, and I can adjust mine to the varying how much I want the spread to be coming out of it. But what you're basically doing is tunneling the light right down to like that sort of size to try and get that through it.
Perfect. And how many shots did you take overall? Was it that you went round the flowers?
I'm just trying to work out what those marks are on my screen.
Yeah, I'm just.
A snoot and a flash for you. There you go.
I was panicking then, Mark. I've been hacked.
There's a flash to the right. There's a snoot, and effectively you're just getting the light coming out at the very narrow end. It's just a cone.
I was spooked then. Say, shush. You could see my face, couldn't you? I was what's going on?
Yeah, carry on, Mike.
Right. Okay. Shot number 2. This is the one that I really. I mean, I tried to make these short. The other advantage I thought with doing it on PowerPoint was because if I've got to open numerous programs, we all know what it's like when we sit and watch people doing post-production, and it's mind-numbing to sit there whilst Photoshop opens or whatever. So this is why I've done it this way. I've tried to keep it quite tight on the post-production coverage, but obviously it's got to be long enough for you to be able to understand what I'm doing in case you're not aware of it yourself. So I apologize for that, but I've tried to keep it tight so it doesn't mind them quite so much, if you know what I mean. Right, so the second one, landscape shot, 3 bracketed exposure, and yeah, this is a shot I did a few years ago now in Ironbridge.
Can you explain what a bracketed exposure is, Mike?
I ain't got a clue. yeah. On your camera, you should have where you can adjust it to bracket so that when you do the first shot, it will give you what it's metering, what it's saying the exposure should be. The second shot will be 1 stop under, or whatever you've marked it to go under, and the third shot will be 1 shot over. So you'll get a spot on, under, over. The theory being so that you'll expose for the shadows and get the details, you'll expose for the highlights and get the details, and you'll do a general exposure, which might be lacking a little bit on either of those. But once all 3 images go together, you'll have the best of all worlds. Now, some people do more than 3. They'll do 5 or 9. 5 is about the max I will go to, depending how much variation there is in the shade and the light that I'm shooting. But 3's normally get awayable, and you can do it with 3. I've chose Aurora simply because I like it, but obviously you can do this in Lightroom and you can do it in Photoshop, and I'm sure there's other programs that do, basically merging the images together. Right, let's just see what. Oh yeah, on this one I started in Aurora to blend them together at the beginning. Then I swapped to Lightroom, which is where I'm going to do most of the heavy lifting. And then to finish it off, I'm going to Photoshop for some cloning and to put texture on it as well. Are you impressed, though? I'm going to use texture.
Right. Okay. So how did I process mine? So for this example, I'm going to use a bracketed shot I took of Ironbridge a number of years ago. So I'll open the image, select the shots that I want to use, open, pull them into Aurora, create HDR, let them load up. Obviously I could use Photoshop or Lightroom's to merge the images together, but for this I've chosen Aurora, which I have a preference towards. When it opens up, it gives you boxes at the bottom, as like with Topaz, that you can have pre-selected adjustments for, or you can do it manually on the right hand side. I'm going to use Enhanced Landscape at 100%, and I'm also going to boost the HDR clarity just so that the variations stand out more on screen for yourselves. Having done that, I'm then going to just save it, export on my desktop. I'll make a new folder for it. I'll call it HDR. And send it there. Export the image out. And then I can close Aurora. Having saved the image, I've now gone to Lightroom, File, Import, and that's the folder I want. So import. First thing I want to do is darken the image, so I'll bring it down just a little bit. Go to the radial filter and begin. What I basically want to do is create pockets of light across the image. Click on invert to give it some shape. So a bit similar to sculpting with the flash gun previously, but this way it's doing it after, obviously in post-production, just to make it more interesting than what it would have been otherwise. So click invert, adjust the exposure, then as I want the end of the, well, as I'm looking down, to be the brightest part of the picture, really, apart from the bridge obviously, but I want the eye to go down that way. So click invert, and I'm going to push this just a little bit further, like so. Come back to here, pick another bit of bush. I'm looking for areas in the picture that are lighter. Well, I've got light falling on them, but if they haven't, I forgot to invert it. If they haven't, I'll create it just to give it a bit of shape. Here we go, like there. Rotate it. Close that up a little bit. Invert. Lighten that one a touch. Don't overlighten them too much, otherwise it will look a bit weird. I mean, you can always go back and, so my Wacom pen's playing up a little bit. You can always go back and adjust them down a little bit further if it's too much. So I'll come to there, just bring that in, push that back a bit, invert, a bit lighter, swing that round, bring it down a bit, make it a little bit narrower, up a touch more, and it's a bit dark up here, so let's put one up here just to create a bit of interest, so it's not so bland invert. Bit brighter on that one. Maybe in the center here. Invert. Set that up a bit. Probably a pool of light here. Invert. Just keep working your way around the picture. Obviously you invert on that one. You could darken instead of lighten, if you so chose. Okay, so that's done. I'll straighten it when it gets to Photoshop, rather than do it in Lightroom, and also I'll remove these dust marks as well. Having called the image in from Photoshop, we'll go to the patch tool and deal with these dust marks to begin with. We'll also straighten the image up. So just pull that back a bit to there. And then I notice that there's a lamp and also a bin that are a bit distracting, so I use the clone stamp, take some of this green bush from up here and do a quick fix on the lamp, and then also come press Alt and clone some of that bush over that bin. It's a bit saturated, so what I'm going to do is duplicate the layer, go to hue and saturation, take the saturation down just a little bit, and also go to contrast, boost some of that back just a bit, which is better. Then what I'll do is close that. What I want to do is add a texture, and I've got the raw linen texture here, so I'll bring it up, place it over it, bring it back on, let go, and then position it, press edit, transform, scale, select Alt to keep the proportions, drag it out, change it to soft light, and flatten. What I want to do is add a vignette, so I'll go Control J, duplicate layer, add one over the top, that's one layer over the top, select the gradient filter, make sure it's on center gradient and black to transparent, go from the center, drag it outwards, release, go from the center, add it upwards, release, turn the opacity down just a touch, go to the eraser tool at about 38, not too much, I'll probably go a bit further than that actually, 47, and we'll delete that darkness over the center that I've just added, reduce it down to about 14. I don't want to go right to the edge, but I just I just want to blend it a little bit more so it's not quite such a harsh transition between light and dark. So about there. And flatten. Now the one area that does still bother me a little bit is this part of the bridge where it's quite bright in comparison to everything else. You tend to look straight there. So what I'll do, Control J, duplicate the layer, go to levels, and what I'm basically going to do is darken the whole image down, and also let me see, go back to there. I'm going to link that to that one. Is go to hue and saturation, link that one to it too, and take the saturation out of it as well. OK that. Go back to this image here, put a mask on it, Control I to invert it, go to the brush tool, make sure it's a soft edge, and paint back just there, just to take that edge off it. If you've gone a little bit too far, go to the opacity and pull it back just a little bit, and layer, flatten, and done. And done.
Okay, Mike.
Very nice. The one thing I will say is I love watching other people use Photoshop because everyone does it different. And the way you went through that, I'm like, whoa, I wouldn't do it like that. That is great.
Yeah. I think one of the problems with post production, we've all got our own ways of doing things, and sometimes, like, some people might look at the way I do something and I think, God, that's so long-winded. But it's what you get used to. Or sometimes somebody will say, oh, if you do this, because it's a bit like if you're using a clone brush or something and you can't get an angle. The fact that if you press R on the keyboard, you can rotate the image round so you can turn it to where you're trying to get to. And it took me a while to learn that, but yeah. No. One other thing before there's any questions, all those that are on tonight, if you are thinking about spending some money, Essential Photo, 10% discount code if you want to make use of it.
Always good to have a discount code. So going back to the image, I mean, yeah, it really from the original image you took to building that HDR kind of high dynamic range image up, and the way that you picked out small details of light which allow more of a journey through the image than what was, as you say, than what was originally there. I really like that. That was a really nice little touch. I enjoyed that. And yeah, it's definitely got a high impact image to it. Very artistic look. So no, very, very nice indeed.
Thank you.
You're very clever. It was interesting because it was basically like it was what you did with the flowers, but you were doing it on a landscape and doing it. Yeah. So that's kind of what I got from it. That it was a similar sort of thing, and you used, and it was nice how you inverted everything, and yeah, it was lovely. It was a really beautiful picture. Thank you, Mike, for showing us that.
Yeah, because I would have got my feet wet if I'd used the flash gun on that one.
Definitely. Yeah, but it's like Mike said, it's interesting to see how people work. I mean, I don't ever see anybody else work. Everybody sits and watches me work, but actually it was really interesting and this is what I love about all this, is actually seeing how other people work, and the more people come forward to sort of show us how they work, and it's great because you all pick up something, don't you?
Bits and pieces, yeah. Always, I mean, you know, even at my stage in my career, you know, there is always something new to learn, and I've always felt that if I ever got to a stage where I thought, no, I know everything I need to know, it's time to pack it in, because I think you need to be, like I said at the start, you need to open your mind and be willing to take on new possibilities from other photographers who might suggest things, you know, different ways of doing things, and you can learn from them. You can learn, you know, and I think the other thing is, you know, you have to practice. You have to practice your art, and you can't practice when you go out and do the job for real, because that's not fair on, say, a model if you're shooting for fun, or a client if you're shooting as a business. You know, athletes don't not practice and just turn up at the track because they're well known and what have you. You know, they practice to be the best they can.
That's very true. Yeah, but yeah, it's really, really interesting. It's great to see some. You know, I'm so looking forward to working with you in May on the equine shoot. It should be phenomenal.
It'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yeah. For those people that have don't know Mike's. Well, not heard of Mike's work before, but you must have seen some of the images that he did from the Game of Thrones weekend that we did. Everybody was talking about you afterwards, going, "Oh my God, I wish I was with Mike." He was like, he had some great images. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. He's really creative on location with your lighting. It is.
I brought my deep dish on that one, didn't I?
It was extraordinary what you did. It was really good. It was very. It was very on point, like you had a centre of, you blackened everything, didn't you? And it was just sort of one point of focus.
Yeah.
A lot of the images that you did that day, and that's because you had one light, right?
That's right. I mean, because I was on my own and moving about, I think I just had I had a Elinchron Quadra with a deep dish on, so that if I tend to use the deep dish if it's windy as well, because I know the deep dish will handle it. But like on the picture I showed at the start on my slideshow, there was a picture of one of the models I did with the red dress floating out. That was done up near Yorkshire in the middle of nowhere, and the wind was just howling. And we put the deep dish on an Avenger C stand with sandbags, and it held it rock solid, and it worked. But anything else would have been, you know, 2 miles down the road. But yeah. But the thing I'm waiting. I'm waiting for our equine one, because I haven't used this bad boy yet. This is my 120 Para.
Well, I help on that, so when we fly around, we'll have people holding it, hopefully.
Trevor likes holding these heavy light stands.
Yeah, yeah. But it's you know, I think everybody would be really interested to see, because we're going to do sort of natural light stuff there as well. But
yeah,
it's quite interesting to actually work on
natural what?
Natural light. Yeah, I don't like that. I prefer strobes, but it'd be really interesting for people to come on that weekend to see.
It will.
How creative you can get with using just one light.
One light, yeah, just one light. I mean, yeah, I like to use more than one if I can, but you can do so much, and you know, you don't have to have the big soft boxes and everything. You know, I was thinking about this earlier, that people who say, well, I've got a speed light, you know, yeah, get the speed light off the camera. That's the first thing, a must. And then, you know, for probably £15 on Amazon, you can get a cheap umbrella, and then the difference it will make to your lighting from going from, you know, because I can remember when I first used a speed light, I hated them. You know, I thought, these are awful. You know, the light's terrible. But as soon as I took it off camera, you know, okay, if it bounced off the ceiling, yes, that was fine. That was, you know, when I first joined the paper in however many years ago it was, and we just bounced everything off the ceilings, you know, thought, oh yeah, this is how to do it. And then when I got an extension cable to go off camera with it, what was it, SB? I can't remember what it was called now, but it was a early cable that you really stretched it off the top of the hot shoe. And we thought, yeah, we've made it now. And you know, over the years, thinking back to how many modifiers there were when I first started to what is available now, it's just phenomenal. You know, to go from soft boxes to grids. You know, it's not that long ago that people said, "Oh, have you got a grid?" Oh, God, you must have spent some money there, because grids were really expensive, weren't they? Whereas now, yeah, 40, 50 quid, maybe something like that. But you know, if you use them, great tool to have.
Well, I've been following you for quite a while.
You've been stalking me.
I have been stalking you, yeah.
Oh, good.
You and Trevor, like when you've been going out and doing your shoots and seeing what you create, and you know, when you've been doing the model shoots and you're out practicing, you know, your craft. It's been awesome to watch. So we're really lucky to have you on board to actually come out and teach some people, and you know.
No, it's all about sharing, though, isn't it? I mean, because I don't know if it was the same with you, Sally, but you know, it's not that long ago when you know you talk to other photographers and you say, "Oh, can you help me or whatever," and it was all very cloak and dagger, and oh no, I'm not going to show them how to do that because they'll be pinching my clients or you know, that sort of thing. Whereas now, you know, I sort of feel that I've been given good opportunities through my time in photography, and if I can help somebody to achieve something that I would look upon as being, oh, is that all they want me to help me with? You know, like I think somebody mentioned on Jan's site that they desperately wanted to learn how to do off-camera flash, and I thought, you know, to us you sort of think, well, that's quite basic, but actually no, you know, like when I first started, yeah, it was a challenge. So if we can help people, great, you know, and if they want to see the difference between, say, boxes to grids to octas to strips to with grids, without grids, so that, you know, if they're thinking about, oh, I wonder if that would be good for me, come and test it, come and see what it does, and they might try it and think, don't like it. It's a bit like for me, if somebody offered me a ring light free of charge, I wouldn't bother. I hate them, absolutely hate them, but other people love them. You know, it just depends what you're shooting as to, you know, what you use. I mean, you know, I've got, you know, for people to try out, if they want to try these, you know, LED panels, ice lights, boxes. You know, I'm a bit of obsessive with buying all this crap over the years, but.
Well, you know, I mean, there's something we can do a little experiment with it on the equine weekend. We can try a few things.
Yeah.
So for people that are actually photographing equine shoots already, that are coming on for some training for strobe lighting so they can carry it on with their clientele.
Yeah.
It's something we can talk about, what they can invest in, you know, because I only use one light when I go out with the horses. Sometimes I use a little beauty dish, and another time I'll use an umbrella, depending on, you know, what the day's like, really, how bright it is. But yeah, I think it'd be quite interesting to actually run it, see what they like.
Yeah. Can we use more than one light on when we do ours though?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we could start with one, and then
We start with one.
and then we can just have a fanfare. Oh dear. So getting back to the challenge.
Yes.
So for those people that haven't got strobes, how are they going to do this at home? It's going to be quite difficult, isn't it?
Well, they could do the landscape shot.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's Ironbridge, Iceland, or wherever. It's the principle of it's a bit like if going back to, actually, it's not that long ago, so I can mention this. A bit like karate. I was going to think, because I give my age away. A bit like Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. And you sort of thought, why? But at the end of the day, there's a reason behind it. There's a method, and it comes into its own at a later stage. And it's a bit like with doing the, you know, with the Lightroom, with the landscape, or with the flash. You know, those techniques, okay, it's a vase of flowers, it's a picture down a river, it's nothing exciting, but it's the technique that will take you moves forward to apply to other things, and you suddenly think, oh, actually, I know how to do that because I did something similar. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done that before, ever. So that would be quite interesting. I'm going to actually try and set up the next challenge with something a bit more natural light, I think, for those that haven't got strobes. But I would like to try that myself.
I mean, Ungo or whatever they are, Speedlight is cheap as chips, isn't it? I mean, it's not expensive. I mean, actually, what you could do, one thing they could do, if they haven't got any Speedlights, but they've got the camera, hopefully they've got a tripod. If they haven't got a tripod, use a light stand instead, or a stand. Most of us have got a stand for some reason, whether, you know, we'll come across these things, don't we? How many stands have you got, Sally?
Camera stands? How many?
No, stands, light stands, any kind of stand.
Millions of them.
But you just accumulate them, don't you, over the course of time? But they could. Actually, it's a tricky one. I actually thought about doing it as a challenge, but I actually thought, no, probably that might be a bit too tricky, because you can do the same with a torch, if in pitch black, and use a torch to light. If you open the camera up and then expose with a torch, you can do it, but it is harder to do, which is why I didn't do it that way. No, forget that one. Those that haven't got a speed light, go and borrow one from somebody. Or do a landscape shot. But it doesn't have to go in the back garden, because sometimes you can go to the most plain, you know, what you consider to be plain looking places. I mean, like for me, if I went out onto my main road and did a shot down the road, it's boring. There's hardly any trees. But if you made it look dramatic, bit like you can do with lighting, and made it very dark, but then put highlights on bits of the edge, bits of the grass, you could end up with a totally different view of what you thought was a very boring kind of shot. But going back again, it's not about what it is; it's the technique. It's doing the technique and getting used to doing it so that you can use it to your advantage at a later time when you're doing a job that's more worthy.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, somebody else is messaging me. I don't know why they're not messaging on here. Do we have any questions, Mike?
No, there's no specific questions that have come up.
Oh.
There's just one come through, but I'm just reading it now.
Is that 71 on chat?
Is that what?
71.
There's messages, there's chatting going on. I've been chatting and
right, yeah.
Like, what's a nice light and stuff like that. But nothing specific about this. So the challenge then for us, how long do we have for this challenge to come back and try these techniques, one or both, and to post them up? What are we looking at for trying to get people to feedback?
I suppose a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks, yeah.
Isn't it, to give people a shot, see what they can do.
And do you want people to post them up just generally on the page, or do you want to have them put in a specific thread and then we review them or look at them, or people can go and view them there? I mean, or the other option is if we add this as one of the modules, and people could put their image in there of what they've done, and then that keeps them all together. Yeah,
that's probably the best bit, isn't it? Or else they get all muddled up. So
yeah. I just saw one of the messages on chat then saying how many images or something like that, and I thought actually, yeah, it'd be quite nice to see the before and after, just to see the difference that it has, you know, that they've been able to pull from it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they put the before and after on.
Yeah. Or will that take too much feed up?
No, I shouldn't think so. No, that should be all right. I mean, they could put them in, just put them in together, or they can just put them in together in Photoshop, can't they? Just put before and after. Yeah, that would be quite interesting to do.
Quite nice.
Yeah. Does Nick saying do you might want before and after? Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's a good
Nice.
idea. Yeah. Interesting to do. Has anybody done anything like this before? Anyone?
Come on, take those mics off and join in.
Talk to us. This is iPad.
Yeah, no, I've done some of the light sculpting on different things. Not quite as you've done it today, but like on a sunset shot, I've done graduated filters and then still bolstered further with either a radial filter or the adjustment brush, but I tend to work most in Lightroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not done a lot of landscape photography, as people know. I don't get out enough to do landscape photography. I'm always tied to the studio. It's something I really want to get into. I mean, I've done some of my own backgrounds, but a lot of the time I tend to buy them in. But I really would like to get into doing more landscape. I'm quite looking forward to our chat mic with our landscape guy that we've got coming on.
Yeah, actually, I had a look. I mean, as people probably do. I saw his name and I thought, let's have a look at his website. And I had a look through and I thought, yeah, there's some nice stuff there. Very nice stuff. Because I actually made a mistake when I did my Ironbridge picture that I didn't bracket it far enough apart, really. Because yeah, that was the first mistake I made, because I what was I going to say? Yeah, because I wanted to slow it down, which I did. I did slow it down because obviously it was sort of like early sunset sort of thing when I actually did the shot. But I wanted to slow it so I could get the milky kind of look on the water, because it was flowing quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I did get it to a degree, but not quite probably as much as I originally aimed to, although I didn't want it to look too weird by being too soft. I was looking at the guy's images today because he'd done some on a lot of shoreline pictures with the water running around the rocks, which had the milky flow around them because he'd done time exposures. And yeah, it was some lovely images.
That's definitely a craft, isn't it, that?
Yeah.
Like learning how to be. I know Adam Smythe, he's a friend of mine. I think I've talked about him before. He's a dressage rider. I might have talked to you about him, actually. And he's a trainer, and he wanted to do something completely different to horses. And that's how we're friendly. We know each other. And he picked up a camera a year or so ago, and his work is just absolutely amazing. And he's like taught himself and looked at all the tutorials and everything, how to do it. And his work is incredible. But he goes around all over the place doing landscape photography, which I think some people do, don't they? They go to Iceland and go to all these different locations.
Iceland seems to be a favourite place for a lot of photographers. That you look at like some of the big name portfolios, and yeah, they've always got Iceland in there, either with a model or as a landscapes or whatever. One thing I was going to say to you, I loved your horse picture with the background that you'd used on it today. Was that today or yesterday that you'd spent a bit of time on? I think it's the horse that we're going to use later on in the year.
Yeah.
You know the one I mean?
Yeah, Tulio. No, not Tulio. That's Jamie Lansby's one, isn't it? He's what's his called? Urano, the Palomino you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, get all my horses muddled up. I talk to so many horsey people. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Sally, just on a side note, I got the the jacket, the safety jacket I was on about.
Oh yeah, the air vest.
Yeah, I took her outside today and we tested it. I videoed it. I couldn't put it on Facebook, the language.
They're really loud, aren't they?
It was very loud.
Oh dear. Yeah, Wolf asked me to do a picture of him for starting off the next episode of the Vikings, because we're starting in April. I don't know why he wanted it now, but he wanted it now. So yeah, that's why I did that yesterday. But I took that a while ago and I did some promos of Marta when we first worked with her, just to see how we got along and stuff. But yeah, it's difficult because he hasn't got he's growing his forelock at the minute. So I had to take some of his mane and put it on the front of him to make it look like he had a longer forelock, but it was difficult. hair on horses and fur is quite difficult, especially when you're using textures and you've got backgrounds and stuff. So yeah, it took me a little while.
Yeah, it was good though. It was very nice. It was very nice. Before people, just sidetracking, Sally, I just saw somebody said they were going. Before people do start to drift off, if they've got to get back or whatever, I just want to say thank you very much for hanging in there. As it was going through, I was watching how many people were dropping off. And it actually, I was quite impressed. I think there were 2 that went whilst I was finishing off. So big thank you to all of you for hanging in, especially on a post-production one, because they are so boring.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I didn't think it was boring. I thought it was good. Did you enjoy it, Nick?
Yeah. Can I just say, so we want 2 images then, one before, one after. It could be an outdoor image, a still life image, or whatever.
Whichever is easier for you with what you have to hand to work with.
I wasn't sure if you wanted an indoor one and an outdoor one, you see.
No, one or the other. That's why I did the 2 options, because I realised that some people might not have off-camera flash.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so that was the idea behind it.
Thank you, Mike. Very good.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. That was an excellent evening, and something very different for us all to try, or certainly for me to try anyway. And I really enjoyed it. As I say, I enjoyed watching your post-production, seeing a different approach. So that was really good. So I guess that wraps up for tonight. We'll get these uploaded, and they should be on the YouTube in a day or 2. And look forward to seeing everyone's images and seeing what they come up with.
Any particular size, Mike?
Whatever. Doesn't matter. As long as it's. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to go. You're obviously going to post it onto. Is it posted onto the group, Sally?
Yes, please. I think Mike's a folder somewhere for it, and I'll make sure he makes it quite known where they've got to go. So yeah, if we keep them in one place.
Yeah, and pixel size as well, Sally, just in case.
Just do it like normal Facebook, really.
That would be crap then, wouldn't it? We want some quality here,
Do it as a 30-40, Nick, and see them strain.
What, and then blow it up so it fills the screen? Yeah. So just have square pixels, that's all you know.
Yeah. No, I look forward to seeing it's funny. I like seeing other people's work because you can learn from it. If everybody shoots different things, everybody's got different tastes. But like when you go visiting somebody and somebody says, "Oh, do you want to see the wedding album?" Most people think, "Oh, Christ." But I like to have a look. I like to see, because I like to try and see who did it, where it was, and have they been really creative, or is there something they've done that I haven't done that I should be doing? But no, I love seeing other people's images. I love Sally's work. Love it when she posts hers. So no, it'd be good to see some different stuff up there.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
I'm going to say cheerio then.
All right, Nick.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers and goodbye.
Bye, man.
Cheers, thank you.
Oh, we look forward to seeing Tegan on Thursday. So we've got a little
everyone.
ticket, haven't we?
Bye, man. Is it Tegan Thursday, Sal?
Tegan on Thursday, yeah.
Good.
And next week we've got Duncan and then Megan, haven't we? So
yeah.
Then I need to get something organised for the week after. But there's a couple of people on here I'm going to ask to sort of come in and do a couple of things. So Gavin's really good with doing beauty.
Don't say too much, I'm still here. I was just going to ask you a question with is it Tegan on Thursday? Is that 8 o'clock as well?
Yeah, that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I was going to ask Gavin to see if he could, whether he'd do some live editing for us, because he does a lot of beauty work. So I might get him to come in and do a little live edit, because I think a lot of people really want to know how to sort of edit skin and stuff, and I know you're pretty hot on that kind of thing, Gavin.
Yeah, no, I'll be happy to do that. I think the good thing as well is what we saw certainly through there is how people use Photoshop differently. And yeah, it is on what I've seen already on these shoots, just how different people use it. You know, in my head, everybody uses it pretty much the same, but the way I use it is completely different. You know, I very rarely use any of the menus. It's all shortcut keys. And for beauty editing, certainly that's the thing, is getting your process down as quick as possible. Same as yours, really, your flow, isn't it? Is to be able to do it as quickly as possible, but more efficiently, should I say, rather than quickly.
Yeah, time is money, and well, for me, so you know, on a normal day to day, I will use a lot of actions for you know, I won't do frequency separation. I'll use actions because I can do it quicker. But if it's a proper shoot,
you are the action king, aren't you?
then if it's a shoot that, you know, for an award or something, yes, then I'll do it properly.
That's what I found with the beauty side. Is, like I say, I've purchased actions. I can't tell you how many I've purchased over the years, because you think, yeah, that's great. And the bottom line with it now is I have probably one of the very first ones I bought from Retouching Academy, which is just for splitting out things like your dodge and burn, things like just shortcut keys for sharpening, that sort of thing. That's all it is. It's just a shortcut key at the end of the day. And yeah, everything else is just standard. And like you say, frequency separation is a massive thing at the minute, and I can't understand why people get 1 million likes because they've got porcelain skin on the model. And it's like, I just don't get it. But as you say, at the end of the day, it's what people like, isn't it?
No, but I look forward to you doing yours, though, because obviously, like you were saying, we all do ours our own ways, but seeing an alternative way is always worth sort of thinking, well, would that be better? Would that be a better option for me?
That's it. I mean, it's like what I've seen with yours today. You know, I tried HDR years ago when I used to do a bit of landscape. Well, I started off doing landscape photography, and I really used to like it. But some of the things I saw from what you did, I think the Lightroom side of it, stroke Photoshop, is the key to it. And at the time, I wasn't really good in Photoshop, and I think that's what killed the love affair with it for me. But it certainly gave me things to think about now. Just seeing, you know, what you did in there and how simple it was to get that effect.
Don't tell my clients, though.
No, you know what I mean. It's not the simpleness of what's in the time. It was just the way you did what you did there. I'm sure you'd have spent way more time, you know, on that final image. But the image that you got in the time you did it in, absolutely spot on.
Yeah, because although I'd pre-recorded some of the bits of it, it was simply to avoid the, you know, Photoshop CC is just opening or whatever, because I thought, you know, it's just too long. So but no, it was all right.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
Good.
I mean, I'm constantly getting I get messages all the time of a night about skin texture and stuff. Like when I'm sitting there at night, I often get people messaging me saying, "Sal, I can't do this," and "Sal, I can't do that." And when I was on my last workshops, I gave everybody a preset to use for semi-portraits because it works really well. And I said, but it won't work for beauty editing, anything up close. You have to use, well, I use frequency separation, but I use it very delicately. So I think it would be really a good one to do, Gavin, and I think that would be a great one for you to do.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I say, give us a shout when you're thinking, and I'll be more than happy. Like I say, if you are getting questions in the meantime and you want to bounce them my way, feel free.
Oh, that'd be great. I'll come over to you. You'll be like, oh, yes. That'd be great, Gavin. Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much for that, Mike. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I've got to ask Peter, is that the rainbow background that you've got behind you?